Hi, thank you for watching Digging to China. I'm Dong Sean. A couple of days before New Year in southern China, armed riot police paraded 4 alleged violators of COVID rules through the streets, leading to criticism of the government's heavy-handed approach. State media reported on Tuesday, December 28th, in Guangxi region's Jingxi city, 4 masked suspects in hazmat suits were paraded in front of a large crowd. These 4 suspects were each held by 2 police officers, and they were all carrying placards displaying their names and photos. Their crimes? Transporting illegal migrants when China's borders remain largely closed due to the pandemic. Jingxi is near the Chinese border with Vietnam. Other suspects accused of illicit smuggling and human trafficking have also been paraded in recent months, according to reports on the Jingxi government website. Videos of a similar parade in November showed a crowd of people watching 2 prisoners being held while local officials read out their crimes on a microphone. They were then seen marching through the streets in their hazmat suits, flanked by police in riot gear. On the same day, authorities in Jingxi formally arrested 2 suspects accused of transporting 2 Vietnamese immigrants into China in October. One of the immigrants tested positive for coronavirus, causing schools to shut, nearly 50,000 residents to undergo home isolation, and more than 10,000 tests to be conducted. It was unclear if the 2 suspects were among the 4 people paraded on Tuesday. The authorities in China that were behind the public shaming incident went on record saying that they shamed the men in order to prevent more COVID-19 violations from happening. It was part of disciplinary measures announced by the local authorities in August to punish those breaking health rules. State-run Guangxi News said the parade provided a real-life warning to the public and it deterred border-related crimes, but it also led to a backlash, both official outlets and social media users criticizing the heavy-handed approach. Border towns face tremendous pressure to keep coronavirus out under China's zero-COVID policy. Local officials have been periodically fired or punished for failing to contain any flare-ups that evade the tough measures. The videos of the public shaming in Jingxi have gained wide attention on Chinese social media, drawing widespread criticism. To many, the parade and the placards bring back the memory of the dark period of the Cultural Revolution. 5 decades ago, public shaming exercises were a hallmark of the persecutions unleashed by Mao Zedong's fervent Red Guards, becoming a symbol of the lawlessness and the chaos of that 10 years of social turmoil. In 1988, the Chinese government banned shaming parades for all suspected and convicted criminals, including those sentenced to death. But similar incidents have occurred repeatedly over the years. In 2010, a government advisor hailed a newly issued ban on shaming parades of sex workers as a sign of the country's growing respect for human rights and dignity. This time, state media waded in too. The Communist Party-affiliated Beijing News said the Jingxi incident seriously violates the spirit of the rule of law and it cannot be allowed to happen again. China's zero-COVID policy had its success if you only look at the government-published data. China has slowed new cases down since the middle of 2020 through a zero-COVID strategy, which involves tight border restrictions, targeted lockdowns, and long quarantines. With home testing in China not permitted, government controls have taken place in order to obtain a clear and accurate picture of where the virus originated in the latest outbreak and where it is heading. The Chinese government is still pig-headedly pursuing the zero-COVID strategy that has severely impacted travel to the country and global trade. it does not make CCP look good with the disappointing data on the efficacy of China's Sinovac vaccine, which WHO says has an efficacy of around 50%. Furthermore, it seems that a booster shot from the Sinovac vaccine does not work much more against the contagious Omicron variant. With over a month left before China is set to host the Winter Olympic, the sudden rise in cases is threatening Beijing's COVID strategy. In a press conference before New Year, an official admitted that the Beijing Winter Olympic could bring COVID-19 cases or small clusters of infections as a large number of overseas personnel will gather, causing a very high risk of transmission. Huang Chun is the Deputy Director of Epidemic Prevention and Control Office of Beijing Winter Olympic Organization Committee. He stated that during the Olympics, COVID-infected staff and athletes would not be able to compete or work and will be sent to a designated hospital or isolation facility depending on whether the patient has symptoms or not. Many have doubt about the data on coronavirus in China, as Beijing has issued a ban on public communication on the coronavirus except with prior authorization by the government, according to leaked internal documents. This means that it's very hard for the outside world to know what's really going on, and the cases may be much higher than are being reported. In the meantime, city of Xi'an is still under lockdown. For the city's 13 million residents, the start of 2022 is looking a lot like 2020, only worse. Since December, the ancient city known as the home of the terracotta warriors has been dealing with China's largest community coronavirus outbreak since Wuhan, the original epicenter of the pandemic. The lockdown is the strictest and the largest since early 2020, but it is also among the most chaotic, leaving residents short of food and other essential supplies and affecting access to medical services. Over the past couple of weeks, Chinese social media was filled with cries for help and criticism over incompetence of the local Xi'an government. Many expressed frustrations they hadn't hoarded food in advance because local authorities had repeatedly reassured them food supplies were abundant and there was no need for panic buying. Residents flooded a live stream of a government COVID news conference with demands for groceries. As a result, the embarrassed officials disabled all comments. The anger and the frustration towards the local government is brewing. It underscores the growing challenge towards China's zero COVID policy, which relies on a playbook of mass testing, extensive quarantines, and snap lockdowns to stamp out any resurgence of the virus. For almost 2 years, these measures have shielded China from the worst aspects of the pandemic, winning overwhelming public support. But as local outbreaks continue to flare up, the outcry in Xi'an raises the question of just how long zero COVID can be sustained before public support begins to taper off. Millions of residents trapped in a seemingly endless cycle of lockdowns. On Friday, New Year's Eve, footage emerged on Weibo of a man being beaten by COVID prevention workers at the gates of a residential compound when he tried to enter with a bag of steamed buns. The video showed the buns scattered on the ground as the man tumbled. The video went viral, and the resulting outcry prompted a statement from police, which said the two attackers were punished with a 7-day detention and a fine of 200 yuan, about $30. For some, the cost of the lockdown was just too high. A man trekked for 100 kilometers, that is 62 miles, across the Qingling mountain range from the Xi'an airport, avoiding multiple village checkpoints on the way before he was finally spotted and taken into quarantine on December 24th. 8 days into his journey. In the other incident, a man cycled for 10 hours overnight in close to freezing temperatures in an attempt to return to his hometown after he learned Xi'an would be locked down the next day. He was taken into quarantine and fined 200 yuan. Despite the difficulties, Xi'an officials have repeatedly pledged their resolve to contain the outbreak in public. For now, it seems Beijing is determined to achieve zero COVID, no matter the cost, even if it pushes public patience to the limit. We'll see. Thank you for watching. Please leave a comment and subscribe to my channel. Just click the subscribe button right here. I'll see you again shortly.